I have here in front of me three of the strangest clubs from the vast Golfbidder warehouse inside. And the funny thing is, these are three of the best golf clubs ever made. So pull up a chair and welcome to the Golfbidder Twilight Zone. Let's start with this one. Who remembers the Ping beryllium copper irons? Hard to believe that these are about 30 years old. They've taken on a kind of mythical quality. Where do I start with them? Beryllium copper, right? That is an alloy that's much softer than steel. So think of the purest forged blades you've ever hit and imagine them smothered with butter. That's what beryllium copper is like. Now, as the story goes, Ping were trying to get into the ultra-light club market, and they'd made these molds to do that, but it was a complete flop and the molds were going to waste. And in order to save them, what they did was they needed something material that was heavier than steel in the heads, and beryllium copper was the answer. The problem was they were super expensive to produce, not to mention quite dangerous in terms of fumes and toxicity from the beryllium during smelting. Totally fine here in the finished product, but just dangerous to produce. But the finished product was amazing, with its square grooves, to a massive hit on the PGA Tour back in the day. Even Jack Nicklaus was complaining that the Ping Tour pros were getting backspin from the rough. It all went in to the lore and the myth that make these irons so sought after. On to our next one. Now, we all want golf clubs to have golf clubs that are better than the other guys, but it's funny, we still expect them to have the same general shape, and when something looks different or odd or outside the parameters of what we expect to be the normal, no matter how good it is, we just don't accept it. And that's the Nike SUMO squared story in a nutshell. Now, I have here the SUMO squared fairway wood, but who remembers the SUMO squared driver? It sounded like a rock hitting a paint can, and even Nike had an advert at the time. Do you remember this? Apologising to customers that some of the retail versions were outside USGA limits and went a couple of yards further. But if you wanted to exchange them for normal ones, that was fine too. But they were square and they were ugly and they were incredibly stable and incredibly straight. Huge moment of inertia. The most forgiving golf clubs ever. But the problem is, they were square. And golfers just didn't like the look of them, and so the Nike SUMO squared, some of the greatest golf clubs ever made, came and went because they didn't fit into the round hole of our golfing stereotypes. And finally, for today, what about this branding iron? Odyssey's Triball SRT putter. Now, we all know how successful the 2-ball putter was and still is, the one-time world's best selling putter model. Well, even the 2-ball design, invented by Dave Peltz and made famous by Odyssey, that had trouble being approved at the start because the rules of golf at the time stipulated that putters had to be, inverted commas, plain in shape. And it wasn't till 5 years after the original 2-ball SRT, or the 2-ball, that this Triball SRT got the nod of approval from on high. 3 balls at the back made it super long front to back, and designers had to make sure the face was the same length because it was also a rule that a club could be no deeper front to back than it was heel to toe. Now, the original design of this putter had no ring. It was incredibly wobbly, and the putter was steel, which made it heavy and wobbly. So from that to this final product, Odyssey turned to aircraft grade aluminium for the CNC milled body. Weighting was moved to the back, and these two heavy zinc alloy bars were added to make the SRT, Saturn ring technology. And what they did was they created one of the most forgiving, face balanced, straight back, straight through putters ever. So from the Golfbidder Twilight Zone of strange clubs for today, for me for now, it's Donal out.